freedom of movement is an important principle we should defend and extend.
Can you film it just in case?
Thank you for the invitation to speak today. As we were on the subject about what our branch has done, we've supported a lot of the Windrush campaign. We've lobbied councillors. We've led on demos. Part of the large demonstration that took place last year when the Windrush scandal first broke. So I was thinking about speaking a bit about Windrush, but I'm sure that you're all aware of the scandal and injustice through the tabloid and media headlines since the scandal broke. And that's thanks to, the campaigning and fighting for justice that the activists and the Windrush generation have fought steadfastly. So, comrades, I support the motion, and I'm glad that it's being proposed. However, I have to point out that the motion speaks about all the symptoms of Brexit without actually mentioning Brexit as being the cause. And for me, what I've seen with the rise of hate crime and racism from the time of the referendum, that Brexit is actually fanning the flames of racism, hate crime, and is increased drastically in frequency and severity since the referendum. It's Black, Asian, migrant people that are suffering. Black activists, especially, they're fighting this racism on all fronts. In the community, in the workplace, in the trade unions, and even within the Labour Party. The Labour Party has failed to call out the racism of Brexit. The effect on Black anti-racist activists has been hostile and demoralising, to say the least. We oppose Brexit and its racist agenda, and we are clear that our fight is to stop Brexit. I want to share some examples of the racism that BAME activists are actually facing. So these are just some of the examples that people have come to speak to me that they've experienced, and some of my own experience. Black activists in the Labour Party are often shouted down whenever they raise the subject of racism and Brexit. And they're often told to be quiet because it's not racism. I have seen and spoken to Black Labour Party members who have been so humiliated that they're in tears when they're relaying what's happened to them, to me. Black activists in trade unions who raise the issue of Brexit and racism are told by their white trade unionist colleagues that a democratic vote was cast and Brexit is the democratic voice of the people, and that the people who voted to leave are not racist. But then that raises the question to me, why then does the hate crime and the racism suddenly accelerate at the point of the Brexit referendum? In the workplace, BAME workers are subjected to institutional racism, covert racism, overt racism daily. I have experienced in an anti-racist meeting that when a Black female activist raised a question from the audience to the panel that they hadn't once mentioned Brexit. Her question said, "You cannot discuss racism without speaking about Brexit." Immediately, a white anti-racist activist stood up from the floor and shouted her down and stated that, "I voted to leave, that doesn't make me a racist." So, instead of Brexit being debated, this activist has taken offence that Brexit and racism are mentioned in the same sentence by a Black person, and so ended the discussion. My question is, why is it taboo for Black people to speak about the racism of Brexit? Comrades, let me make this clear. Fighting racism isn't just about Stephen Yaxley Lennon and the far right. It is what we have to do every day, without choice. And it is everywhere in our workplace, community, trade union, anti-racist organisation, and in the Labour Party. Brexit has actually turbocharged this. We are demanding real anti-racist leadership from the Labour Party, not vague statements sitting on the fence, trying to appeal to both Leave and Remain at the same time. As the saying goes, you cannot serve two masters. We must come out and call out racism within the party and trade unions. We cannot afford to allow racism to go unchallenged. It damages lives and it pits worker against worker. We want this motion to be passed by the CLP for national conference, and we do not want it to form a composite with any other Brexit motion, because this motion must be clear that it rejects Brexit and racism. The end of free movement will mean human quotas, but the only quotas being met at the moment are the nameless dead migrants in the Mediterranean Sea, the migrants languishing in Calais, the migrants in slave trade prisons in Libya. The call for Labour to shift its position on free movement is a moral one. The Labour movement has historically been the party that championed the cause of the disadvantaged. Freedom of movement benefits us all. Freedom of movement should not just be the privilege of the few, but the many. Last month at UNISON NDC conference, I spoke against a pro-Brexit motion. I said, we cannot support a motion that says the union must campaign for any kind of Brexit. We must come out clearly against Brexit. This year's UNISON's Black Members Conference laid out what needs to be done to defend our Black and migrant brothers and sisters. The policy we passed said the opportunity and duty before us is twofold. Putting a stop to the ongoing injustice of previous immigration laws, which continue to blight the lives of Windrush generation and their families, and to stop the new injustice taking place with Brexit of ending free movement of people. We must take strong action. The government Brexit plans are divisive, and the prospect of a no deal threaten greater poverty than we are already seeing. There's increase in racism and xenophobia that will especially affect Black and immigrant workers, their families and communities. We have already seen a massive increase in hate crime since the referendum. It is a lie spread by the Tories and other pro-Brexit figures that migrants undercut wages. We have shown in our strikes and campaigns that migrants organized in our union collectively drives up wages. We must not accept the Brexit of Fortress Britain and Fortress Europe. We should be working with unions and socialists across Europe to level up terms and conditions and strengthen workers' rights. Comrades, we should be arguing for an end to Fortress Europe. After I left the podium, I was greeted by many Black and Asian and BAME activists who stated that they wanted to thank me for raising the issue of Brexit racism. They said because no one speaks about it, and they do not feel that their voices are being heard. Those who are supposed to represent them have let them down. And that is why we have organized a BAME Black activist-led London summit to defend free movement of people. We are going to be holding a call out here at SOAS University on the 27th of July. We are asking you to spread the word in your CLP, in your organizations, to your BAME activists, to get them to come along. We're asking for you to support us to lead the campaign for free movement. And to that end, we are planning to stage a demo on the first day of the national conference, Labour conference, to raise the importance of free movement. And we are asking you to support the demo. Thank you.
Thanks.